So hey, hi guys. So now moving to the privacy policy and the cyber insurance. And so privacy policy and the cyber insurance, itself independently, both of are very crucial to the GDPR compliance. The reason is like that where GDPR Act mandates the privacy policy to be there, to provide the privacy notice and taking the consent from the data subject. But on the other hand, like whatever the governance, cyber security and the governance and the implementation you do require, like that you need to ensure your business. So first discussing on the privacy policy. So see, so far, like we have already discussed, like the privacy policy in our part one, which is GDPR compliance, and we have seen some of the details in the part two as well. Like how exactly we can govern the privacy policy in terms of, like if we have to comply with all the GDPR requirements. So see, there are the requirements, GDPR mandates that that you, if you are into B2C or the B2B, whatever the case may be, that if you are dealing with the personal data of the data subject, then it becomes necessary that you need to collect the necessary consent, whatever the processing activities you are carrying out at your end. And the same thing, practically we see in the industry as well, that uh, you take the example of Amazon, or maybe like eBay or the Walmart. You go onto their website, so a user has to give their acceptance or the acknowledgement or the consent, that that I acknowledge on the terms and condition and the privacy policy, that I'm fine that you are processing my personal data for the performance of that your the service you are going to provide with this website and all. So the same way as goes with the, like even like with the SaaS based companies, you see, like that the mobile application, when you open the first time, after downloading and installing it, they will be asked you to provide your acceptance, user acceptance on the privacy policy. So what exactly, so this is the same across all the data protection laws. So because they mandate to take the consent from the data subject, and this is where, like it becomes necessary for the that data protection officers and being as a data controller or the processor, that you need to have the privacy policy in place, which covers all of these requirements. So far we have discussed, like that what should be there in the privacy policy and all, and how exactly practically we can cover that part. But now is the time, like we see that in case if you have to draft the policy and have to publish it onto your application or the website, so what are the details it must have. So see, first thing is that you need to have in the privacy policy is that draft the scope and the purpose of the processing. So you need to define the scope and the purpose of the processing. We have seen that in our GDPR part 1 compliance draft, you need to draft the legal basis for collecting and processing personal data. So you need to see, you need to define, like that what are the reasons actually you are collecting and processing the data. Could be the example, like that for the performance of the contract. So and so on and so forth. So whatever the reasons are there, whatever the legal reasons, you can just mention in that para. Draft data subject rights and exercise process. So we have seen, like that what are the different data subject rights. Example, like, so you need to lay down all the data subject rights in a under the umbrella of data subject rights clause. And so example, like right to access data. So you need to provide the like mechanism in that privacy policy, that if you have to access data, this is the way you can actually access your data. Example, like you go into the profile section of your application and so the same way, like that if data subjects, like that right to object, right to restrict data and all, and so on and so forth. So you have to provide all the mechanisms, that how exactly that data subject can freely exercise their rights, and in what way. Now the second thing which you need to have one clause and one paragraph around is, which is security of processing, which we known by TOM as well, which is technical and organizational security measures, article 32. So you need to have one paragraph around it. So you can mention that this is that we are the ISO 27001 company, or we maintain ISO 27001 or relevant certification in place which protects your personal data and blah blah blah. So this is how that you need to keep drafting all of these points, and that the details in it. Draft data retention period. So if you see, like it's that the requirement for the performance of the contract or the services for 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, so you can mention the same over here, and give the user that you can provide the communication under the same draft cross-border data transfer if applicable. So obviously, like this is very debated and objected topic. In case if you don't collect the data, if you don't collect the cross-border data transfer explicit consent from the data subject, obviously you can't go out or transfer the data outside of European region. So this becomes very important, like that you collect the consent in the privacy policy and make them aware that in case if you are processing their personal data out of the user country. Draft cookie compliance. So you can cover the cookie compliance either itself in the privacy policy, or maybe like in a separate cookie policy. So up to you, however the convenience you see in your case. So cookies, maybe like you may be collecting like that the IP addresses or that credentials which can trace back to the individual, the natural person. So if that is the case, you need to provide like that these are the identifiers we'll be collecting into the cookie, and these are the technical security we have. So how exactly you are complying with the cookie. Draft on the advertising and the marketing. So most of the times, like in case if you see that you are also using the personal data other than the intended purpose, and which is maybe like for the marketing purpose, then you need to explicitly mention the same in the same paragraph. Or if you are not processing, or you're not using for a marketing, then you can mention that we don't use it for any other than the intended purpose. Disclosures to third party. The cases maybe like where that the processor is data processor is processing, sharing, or transferring some personal data of the data subject to third parties, then you need to mention something around it, that we for the performance of the service or the contract, we will be sharing or transferring some of your personal data to XYZ, that or to the third parties, but we have all the controls, data protection agreements, and that due diligence uh, in place. Yeah. Relationship to terms and use and the other contracts. So you might need to per your for the performance of your business and the legal requirements, you might require to refer that terms and use and the other contracts. You can just give the link into the privacy policy. Draft contact and the communication process. So obviously, in case if data subject have some request which you need to exercise, then you need to provide the DPO details, which is email ID, the contact number, and all. So the that data subject can reach out to the right and the concerned party. Draft changes to the policy. So you try, you can consider having like writing something like that the policy is bound to be for any changes per applicable laws and the regulation. So we will notify you for any kind of changes and all. Draft effective date for the policy become effective. So try to enforce so this is what we are doing is that we are enforcing that it becomes the privacy policy is getting effective from XYZ date. So this is how, like you need to cover all of these privacy policy, all of these that details in the privacy policy. And I think that that if you do so, that I can personally guarantee you that you can comply with the GDPR Act. And obviously one of the, I think, 30-40% you comply with the GDPR compliance, because privacy policy is something which is the forefront runner in your GDPR compliance. And even if you do any kind of deal into B2 into B2B, because your clients will be asking whether you have the privacy policy published onto your website or the application or not. So this is something which you need to keep implementing in the first, in the first phase only. So once you have the the complete understanding of the GDPR governance and the implementation and about everything, I think this becomes very easy task for you. So the privacy policy generally it's generally drafted along with the help of that legal counsel or the legal team. And or maybe that if if you see that you can draft the privacy policy by himself, then I think that's the best thing you can do to your organization. Okay, so now moving on to the cyber insurance policy. So so see, one thing which we need to understand that cyber insurance is something just that we generally have the car insurance or the life insurance. So what we are doing over here is that we are insuring our business if something goes wrong, and we are kind of in in emergency. So this is for to cover our business liability for any kind of a data breach. And also some of the requirements are that client says that if you are processing my data, then they contractually bound the data processor that you need to have the cyber insurance, or that you need to give the remedy for any kind of data breach which happens at your end. So to cover that your business risk, we generally have cyber insurance policy. So the categories could be that, because we see every now and then, maybe due to some security flaw in the misconfigurations, so some attackers gain access to your system, or could be the insider attack. We see that due to xyz reason, maybe identity theft, cyber stalking, malware attack, IT theft loss, phishing, email spoofing. We see more commonly media liability claims, cyber extortion, privacy and data breach by third parties, etc, etc. So any of the cases, maybe we need to cover our coverage from the liability point of view. So there are many banks and the insurance companies, you can check it out their policies, and can cover your coverage, maybe 300,000 USD dollar, or maybe 50 CR in INR, whatever the case may be. You see what kind of coverage you wanted from the for your business. So in case if something goes wrong and during the emergency, I think this is what this will help you, that you insure your business and can keep running your business. Because one of the fundamental of that running the business is to keep in the business. So unless you have the business, unless you don't have the business, you can't actually can give anything to your clients or to your customers.